So here we have it, the LG Velvet. This is a phone that LG has just recently come out with. This is an AT&T version for the United States, and it's a very interesting phone. What is this? This is I don't even know. Maybe this is a new category of phone. It's not a budget phone. It's not a flagship $1,000 phone. It is like I don't know, somewhere in between. This thing costs about $700 with the case. It's relatively inexpensive compared to other phones, especially with what you get with it. But it makes a few compromises in order to get there. So you've got your dual screen case, as you will, and I like this dual screen case compared to the LG V60. It's thinner. The phone itself is thinner. They're about the same weight, I guess. I like this screen that's on the front a little bit better than I do the stuff that came with the G8X and the V60. The silver color is nice, and it's got this new raindrop style camera array, which I think is pretty sexy looking. LG is trying to break out of what they've always been sort of knocked for, which is that their designs have been uninspiring over the past many years. I mean, the LG Flex way back in the day, now that was taking some chances, but they really haven't taken a ton of chances since the early V series line. So they decided to go a little bit more top drawer with the Velvet, and I think it's paying off. I think it's paying off for them. But I have a few reservations about this phone, and we'll talk about them. So this has LG's new skin on it, which is slightly different than the skin that was on the V60 or is on the V60. I like it okay. It's not terrible. It's very close to stock Android. It's not as bad as some of the LG skins of the past. It's a little too blocky, a little bit too pastel for my taste. One thing I do like is this velvet texture. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? See? Oh yeah. So it's got this live wallpaper where it's supposed to look like velvet, and when you touch it, it looks like you're touching fabric. It's maybe kind of creepy, but I like it. The phone itself is really good looking. Like, they sent me this silver color, which reminds me a little bit of the sort of aura glow that Samsung had last year, and I like it a lot. It is one of the better looking phones that I've seen all year. It's got some taper to it, but the edges aren't too rounded off. There's a very nice aluminum edge along the side here. It doesn't look that different than, say, a Samsung phone, but at the same time, it does have its own feel to it, and I think that's worth mentioning. So on the side here, it has its on-off power button. It's volume up and down over on this side. Over on this side, you have a Google Assistant button. You press that, and the Google Assistant will pop up. And I don't have anything to say to you, but it does pop up. So if you want to do that, I think you can remap this as well. If not natively, then there's always some kind of app somewhere that will allow you to remap it. It's got a little teardrop notch in it. The teardrop notch is not that big a deal to me at all. It's not that big a deal whatsoever. With some very slim bezels, it's just a nice phone that's got front-firing speakers on the top, and then on the bottom they have this sort of side-firing speaker. Speakers sound okay. It does have on the bottom USB-C as well as a headphone jack, and we'll talk about that in a second. Then up top, you've got nothing but some microphone and your SIM card tray and that kind of thing. As you know, if you've been watching the channel, I've been a really big fan of LG phones for quite some time, and more so over the past several years, because the past couple of years, because LG is still creating really high quality phones with features that nobody else is offering. They were the first to have a triple camera array on the back. They were the first to do a lot of different things, and they still have on their V60 and their G series a very nice headphone jack with a quad DAC inside. And the quad DAC is, if you're someone who loves to listen to music and you have a nice collection of wired earbuds or earphones and stuff like this, then the quad you owe it to yourself to get the quad DAC, not only because the quad DAC sounds great, but you can get the LG V60 for $800. And when you look at, I just have to point out, Samsung doesn't have an S series phone or a Note series phone that's cheaper than $1,000 right now. And so when you're cutting out 20% of the price, then it's worth considering. The Velvet is a very similar concept to the V series. The Velvet is probably, I guess you would say, somewhere between the V series and the G series, with a couple of things a couple of corners cut that don't seem to affect the phone very much, but it's worth noting, it's worth considering whether or not it means something to you. Most flagship phones this year have the Snapdragon 865 chipset inside. This has the relatively new Snapdragon 765 with a 5G modem and that kind of thing. And in using this phone, I haven't really found that it doesn't feel much different than other Android phones that have the 865. There maybe have been a couple of moments of lag here and there, but I can't tell if that's just, apps, or it's not been enough to say that it's a chronic thing. There's not really any fall off in performance with the 765, but if you are somebody who really loves that sort of, flagship feature packed fest, then the Velvet is not maybe the phone for you, because it's value minded. It's value minded in the sense of what it gives you. It's value minded in the sense of how it delivers it. Cosmetically, this thing is pristine. It feels great in the hand, very smooth, very just nicely weighted, and a good size. It's a big phone, but it's still sort of a good size. It's a little slimmer. It doesn't feel like too much in your hands. It has the under the screen fingerprint reader, which is still not the greatest under the screen fingerprint reader out there in the world. I don't really like under the screen fingerprint readers. However, this one works. I wish that there was still a fingerprint reader on the back. I've said this about the V60 as well. Unfortunately, there's not. The dual screen case maybe has some things that work against it in comparison to folding screen phones, and then some things that actually work for it. Some of the things that you can do with this, obviously, you can put two different apps on two different screens. If I want my mail and some YouTube up here, I can do both at the same time. I can take notes and have something else on the other side if I'm working on some kind of document or something like that. It is very handy. There's also a gaming feature. It turns the top screen into the screen where you'll see the game, and then the bottom screen, the phone itself, becomes a controller. And there are many different controllers that you can choose from, but overall, it's a very nice package. One thing I'll say, see, here's the V60. I'll hold them up next to each other. They're about the same. The V60's look is a little bit different. It's a little bit thicker. The battery life, however, has been really good with this. Again, the lower spec chip and the fact that there's a 1080p screen in here and not a 1440p. It has 60 hertz screen, not 120 hertz. So not as much power draw. This year seems to be the year where everybody wants fast refresh rate screens, and this doesn't have it. However, having used fast refresh screens, as well as having used first the V60 and then the LG Velvet, and over the past several months, I don't find that I've missed the higher pixel count. I don't find that I've missed the higher refresh rate. It's probably something that you could get, probably something that you would notice if you've been using a higher refresh rate phone for a while and then you switch over. But I haven't actually noticed it. As I said, the Velvet is somewhat a trade-off. It doesn't have all the specs of the V60 and other phones out there that have the highest rated chip, etc., etc. But it does have this headphone jack. The one thing that is really disappointing to me, though, is that this headphone jack is not the quad DAC, super fancy 32-bit sounding amazing, driving all kinds of different headphones headphone jack. It is a headphone jack. It sounds good. It sounds good. And I'm glad that it's there. However, LG in their package that they sent, they sort of build the Velvet as the phone that's, sort of showing the way for them into the future, what the future of LG phones is going to be like. And they claim that they're going to be moving away from the G series and the V series and going more in this direction, which for them is probably good in terms of business. They sit in that market somewhere between $500 and $700, $800 that is not really occupied by a lot of phones these days. And so that's probably a good place for LG to be. However, losing something like the quad DAC is a bummer for me. I hope that they still have some models that have it. I understand if they want to cut that corner on other models, but they claim that this is the direction that they're going. From a look standpoint, from a design standpoint, everything about this phone is on point. Everything about this phone feels great, and I have no problems with it whatsoever. They've made compromises in some of the hardware, which seem to be okay, but time will tell. My full review on this will sort of give you more of a sense of what it's like to use this over a longer period of time. I just got this last week, so I don't really want to say that this is my full review, etc., etc. But the iteration from first the LG V50, then to the G8X, then to the V60, and now to the Velvet with this dual screen case, and LG sort of doubling down on being a more value-minded but feature-rich option when it comes to phones, especially Android phones, especially Samsung and others. LG going in that direction makes a lot of sense, and I think it's going to do really well for them. But I'll let you know how I feel about this once I use it for a little while longer. For the moment, I feel positive about it, but for me personally, as an LG fan, I've really liked the V series, especially as sort of like the answer to the Galaxy Note series, which now is not nearly as compelling as it once was. So here we have the LG Velvet that's made some compromises. Maybe this is kind of like the Note 20 instead of the Note 20 Ultra. It's made compromises. However, the price reflects it, and it seems more like a reasonable trade-off for a very good phone. Anyway, full review to come soon. More coverage of LG related stuff in these things that are sticking up on the screen right now, as well as playlists of different reviews, etc., etc. So please click on those. Go check out some more of my LG content. Ask me questions. Leave me comments down in the comments below. There'll be a link to this in the description, as well as to just about anything else that I talked about in this video. Once again, thanks so much for being here. My name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech, so honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.